Hello and welcome. This is Founder Leroon with Fantasy Grounds College. Going to be working on some more sophisticated characters using the new character wizard. I think that this is very merited in the fact that Fantasy Grounds and the new Unity platform has included a better way to create characters. This is a little bit shorter than creating them with the standard method of drag and drop. So I want to make something a little bit more complex and a little bit more detailed. So I'm going to build using the character wizard, and then I'm going to fill in some details at the end. If you are new to Fantasy Grounds, check out the demo. Go to the website, fantasygrounds.com. and join our community, Fantasy Grounds College, and we will help you learn and get you introduced to the platform. And if you are so inclined, maybe you'll get into a game and actually start playing. So, okay, I'll get it started. So let's go ahead and go into Fantasy Grounds. And I have my handy dandy purple pointer. We're going to build a couple Drow characters. We might only have time to get to one since they're going to be pretty complex. So the first one I'm going to build is this fighter, and he's kind of a stealth / dex-based fighter, and he has a companion, and she is a female Drow assassin. So we're going to build these two characters. They're not going to be your traditional goody two-shoe ones, and I'm going to build them with some custom content at the end. So if you want to stick around for that, you're welcome to. But the main part of this is the very beginning with the character wizard. It's gone through a lot of revisions and changes since they released it. It is a part of the DnD5e rule set. Also, Pathfinder 2 has something similar. So if you guys play Pathfinder 2, that has a similar type of character builder. Although it works differently, it has the same principle. So I want to go ahead and click on the character selection window, which is over here on the right. And this is assuming that you have content. So the character wizard assumes that you use the player's handbook. So if you have the SRD, or if you don't have any content, this wizard's not going to do you much good. The SRD is kind of compatible with it, depending on what you build. But it's recommended that you have at least the player's handbook, just for the sake of the wizard. You don't have to own anything, to be honest. And if you are just a player and you don't really intend on doing anything outside of your game, your dungeon master will have all the content that you need, so you don't even have to buy anything. But if you want to build your own characters independently of your game master or host, you want to get a subscription and at least the player's handbook. So that's what I've got. And if you go into your library, you will find your assets and your books in there if you purchased any. And then I have a bunch of custom content loaded here too. So just let you know, I have a lot of core content. I don't want to, make you think that this is what you're getting when you first start. So a lot of these things I have now are collected from time and from collecting. So don't feel obligated to go out and buy everything at once. So the first thing I do is click on characters and open up the character selection. As you can see, there's no characters here. This is because I'm going to build our characters from scratch. This window here is the assets window, and I'll show you what that's all about shortly. So I'm going to click on the character wizard, and this is the basic character builder interface. So what this does is it gives you an opportunity to build a character without too much fanfare, and you don't have to commit right away. So if you change your mind or you're like halfway through, what this does is it helps you from making choices that are probably not very, very good, or maybe you aren't understanding what you needed to do at first. Whatever the issue might be, this will help you. So one thing I wanted to show you was I'm going to add a name to this. So I'm just going to make up, I'll just say Drow Warrior for now, because I don't really have a name in mind. And this is the point where I'm going to pick the sub-race. Now, a lot of these races come from other products, and I even have some third products here, so it's picking up most of that, so that's good. A lot of this stuff is not in the regular monster manuals or the character building content. So this is pretty cool. So if you wanted to pick an elf or a drow, then you can come down here and pick it in alphabetical order. I even have a Drider if you wanted to make a Drider character, which we might do in the future. something that's a little less standard and not so generic. So there's a lot of content here that I can access right now for character building. But I think for the most part, I'm going to just try to stick to something that's a little bit more lined out. So I'm going to go ahead and pick an Elven Drow, and I want to make sure that I have the correct content selected here. So if I go down this big old list, and the reason why it's so big is because I have like 30,000 books loaded. So as you can see, this list is pretty big. So these are all sub-races that I can potentially pick from coming from other content. And these are not the actual player's handbook. These are things that were added after, for third-party content. So there's a whole bunch of different things in here that I can pick from. But I want to mainly just pick a Drow subclass. So if I come through here and I just go ahead and go to Elf, I'll go ahead and click that. And if you just single click on it, it will give you the rundown of what the actual elf gives you. So if I pick the elf, this is going to be my race. And so I picked the race based off of what you want for your character. So it's asking you for your race and sub-race is what this first thing does. So what I want to do is come over here to the race. See, I got half elf selected. I don't want that. So the nice part of this is you can come back through here and technically go back and redo it, so you don't have to commit to the drag and drop that you're accustomed to before. Because before, when you selected a character, you had to basically start over if you made a mistake. So this kind of helps with that. It makes it so that you don't have to commit right away to any specific choice, and it gives you an opportunity to go back and change. Because you might see a few things that clash when you're building your character, so you want to be able to go back and redo it. So that's important that you have that ability. And before, it was kind of a crapshoot. You weren't really sure what you're going to do. But anyways, I picked on the elf, and now I'm going to click on this dark elf, and it automatically takes and adds the ability score adjustments for that, for the elf and for the sub race. So it's already calculated that in. And this is the standard array. So if you wanted to roll, you could, or if you wanted to do something else, you could. But this is 15, 16, 13, 12, 10, and 9. I'm pretty good with that, actually, for a drow. That makes sense. 15 strength, 16 dex, 13 con. I might switch those two around, but being that this drow isn't, it's not too bad for a warrior, so I think I might leave this. But if you wanted to, you can click on stats and you can readjust these. So there's these little arrows down below. This is all based off the standard array. You get a +2 on dex, so I didn't have to use my highest score. And then you get a +1 on charisma, which brings that up to a 9, which isn't too bad. So it's up to you how you want to do this, but there's different methods. So you have a dice roll, manual entry, point buy, and standard array. So I've already made my choice. I'm good with the standard array and with the racial adjustments. So the race is already satisfied. So there's a little green check up here. And then the stats are also satisfied just by me selecting the race, and it plugs those in automatically. So I don't have to do anything technically. But if I wanted to move these around, like maybe I wanted intelligence to go to charisma and vice versa, so I can move that back and forth if I want with these arrows. But I'm not going to do that now because I'm happy with the way the results came out. So that's a good thing. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see. So now the next thing is to pick the class. So here you have an array of different classes. This is going to be a warrior type. I don't know if not a ranger, but it's going to be more of a finesse warrior. So I'm going to go ahead and click fighter. And it's fighter level 1. So if we're going to do it that way, we could technically switch to a different level, but I kind of want to go through the process with you. So we're going to be a level 1 fighter, and that's going to satisfy our class requirement, and then that will basically this will be our main class that we're going to go for. So here's fighter, and then when you scroll down, it wants you to select your proficiency. So I'm going to select acrobatics, being that it's a drow. They already have perception, so I don't have to worry about that. And probably athletics. And that's already going to round out this character pretty well with the skills they need. And then if you want a multi-class at this point, you can, but I think I'm good. So I picked the proficiencies for that particular race and background and class, or at least the class. And it's green now because I satisfied the requirements. So now if I go to background, I'm going to take a look at all the different backgrounds. This guy is more of a warrior, or this drow is more of a warrior. You could be a drow noble, house noble. You can be a, let's see, drow noble, a male. So this would be, so this would be something that you could use for the background, and then it says to select a background. So we've already done that, but since I used custom content, it kind of made the program go, ooh, what's going on here? So the content that I chose was not designed for this actual wizard thing, so it's a little bit goofy. But if you wanted to do some custom content, once you get done, you can go back and fix this, because you get deception and persuasion, which I see, and then there's something like here, probably poison, that's on his sheet. So, but anyways, the background is satisfied now, and it's right there. So it gave me a little error message because I had some custom content in there, but it seems to be doing okay now. And now the thing that most people spend a lot of time on is inventory. So if you click on the inventory tab, you can basically you can select what you need to select when you are building your character. And also, since I have a ton of content loaded, you'll notice that it kind of bogs the character builder down a little bit. That's because I have a ton of content. So it can, see here, it's giving me image errors and stuff because of what I'm doing here. So I'm pushing the limits of the character builder. So I can get chainmail or leather. So being that this guy is more of a warrior type, I think chainmail would probably be the best bet. So that's my first choice. And then for the blade that they would use is probably going to be, you know, a long sword or some sort of blade that's going to help with this particular build. So I know he has a crossbow, but I want to pick his main weapon. So there's a whole bunch of different weapons here because I have different content loaded. But there's the double scimitar thing you can have for you know, if you wanted to be a multi-weapon attack type character. You also have different weapons from different sources that are similar or they're different because of the content, that how it was created. So basically you can go through here, and if you want to search, there is a search function, and this allows you to purchase your equipment or whatever you want to do. So you could technically search for the item, and then it would basically allow you to kind of give it a cursor, so you don't have to worry about trying to, you know, look for each thing one at a time. So the idea here is that, you know, I have way too much content, so this is why I'm getting these errors, and I'm also using a custom theme. So you kind of have to be careful what you're doing. So you can see I have these little errors here from, I just have way too much content, and then the bitmap, this icon, may not be available in this theme. So that's why I'm saying you got to be kind of careful with what content you're using. But for the most part, I would use chainmail, and then for my choice 2 would be a longsword. And then for my second choice, it's going to be a hand crossbow or a crossbow of some sort. So let's take a look, see what we got. So I've already picked my sword and my armor. Now I just need a like a crossbow or something like that, something ranged, so I don't have to fight from up close all the time. So it's nice to have a kind of a crossbow-like weapon, or some sort of spear that you can throw, whatever it is that helps your character fight from a distance in case there's overwhelming odds, or if they want to sneak up or something like that. So let's see if we can grab a, see, there's another long sword. We don't need that. Here we go, hand crossbow. So crossbow hand. So I double clicked on that, and that basically gives me my choices. Now what you could do is, as you're going down this list, you're only just taking and selecting your proficiencies. If you really want to go and buy stuff and add it to your character sheet before you move on, it's much easier to do it like that. So I'm going to go with chainmail. So every time you add a new item or a new group, see, I'm in gear right now. You got to be in armor to get your chainmail. So if I hit chainmail and hit enter, I should be able to find chain. Let me back this up a little bit. There we go. Yep, there it is. So here's chainmail. And if I double click on this and drag and drop it down, oops, I'm in the pin mode. How did I get there? Okay. So if I drag and drop the chain down to this list, that's how you add it to your inventory. And as you can see, it's automatically equipped, so that's cool. So that's the chainmail. And then when you go back to your starting equipment, which is this button, that satisfies that. Now we're going to get the longsword and the hand crossbow. So you're going to go back to purchase equipment, and then you want to go ahead and make sure that you're in weapons. And then we're going to go to crossbow and sword. So I'm going to go with long. And here's our long sword. So I want to drag and drop that into the inventory area. So I want to drag that little chain link. That's our long blade. It's automatically equipped. And then I'm going to go for the crossbow, or so hand crossbow. So there's a little hand crossbow that we're going to be using. And quite often you need ammo and something to carry it in. So if I'm able to go to gear, I'm going to go look for crossbow. And there is a case that you can hold all of your stuff in, your bolts. And then here's the crossbow bolts themselves. There are different varieties, but I'm going to go ahead and grab this little bulk kit of 20. And that's pretty much what you get for your class stuff. And these things are carried, and then the other stuff is worn or equipped. So that's what this little icon is. So that is basically how that you drag and drop the information as you go, instead of trying to remember it all at the end. So if I go back to starting equipment, I have satisfied these two, and then my second choice was this light crossbow, which this is a fourth choice actually. So if I want to, I can go back and fix that. But I think a light crossbow might be okay. I might take a dagger though instead. So instead of that, I would use this crossbow, this light crossbow, and then the second choice would have been a dagger. So that, if you have to close a quarter fight, or you have to, basically you're fighting up close, that would be a good weapon to have. So the closer someone gets inside of your reach, the shorter the weapon would have to be. Otherwise, you'd probably have disadvantage or some kind of maneuverability issues. So it's good to have a dagger. I think that everyone should have a dagger. Unless there's a forbidden or something. So having a knife on you can really get you out of a bind. And to be honest, a knife might even act as a tool. I mean, at the risk of making it dull or useless, I mean, you have that tool in your arsenal, so that you don't have to worry about that. So we don't need the hand crossbow, but basically, if you're going to pick your fourth item or your second choice, you'll have to decide if you want the dagger or something that goes with it. I kind of like this having a regular dagger because it's really important. So you can go into purchase equipment, and let's go with dagger. So I'm going to go to the search box and make sure you're in the correct category because I've done that many times. So here's a dagger, and drag and drop that in here. And then when you go to the starting equipment, you can go back and look for it and select it if you need to. But that means you're proficient with it. So 1 marks your proficiency, and then you actually get the gear and you drag and drop it to your sheet. So it's easier to go down this list as you're building or selecting equipment. So you can see I have the dagger, I have crossbow bolts, the case, and all this sort of stuff. So we're good there. Now for gear, you have some stuff from your background, and then you have things that you'll get from your class. I don't want a whole bunch of inventory, so I'm going to get the Dungeoneer's kit or the Explorer's kit. So let me see what we have here. So here's the Dungeoneer's pack. You click on that, you get a crowbar, a hammer, some pythons that are 2.5 inches long, 10 torches, tinderbox. You get 10 days of food, water skin, and rope. And it's strapped to the side of your backpack. So I like that. When you drag this in here, if it's a pack of some sort, it will expand in your inventory, and you will have a bunch of little knick-knack things, and all those little contents will be inside there if it's built correctly. So that is basically how you would give yourself some kind of equipment and gear so that it's easier for you to build your character or organize it later. So we have a lot of different content here, and a lot of it has to do with the class and the background. And if you read the background that you chose, so if I go here and I read about this background, it says I'm like a male drow of a house. I get these. I get the Poisoner's kit, so that's something I need to look at. And I get the Undercommon language. So if you look over here, it says Common and Elvish, so I'm going to have to add Undercommon instead of Common later on, which is fine. And then for the Poisoner's kit, I'm going to go through the equipment. So I'm going to go back to the inventory, and then I'm going to go to gear, and I'm going to type poison and see what I can get. Okay, so there's a basic poison in here, so I'm definitely going to drag that in here. And there's some drow poison, which is cool. I think I'm going to go with a kit. So let me take a look at kit. And I'm in the gear section, so just remember the difference between gear, weapons, and armor. A lot of times your ammunition is in the gear, not the weapons. So here's an antidote kit, disguise kit, climber's kit. So there's a lot of kits in here, but here's the poisoner's kit. So you get that from your background. So he's going to have the ability to use poisons, which is kind of cool. And then anything else, like a sheath or a scabbard or any of those things, they're not really as prominent in 5th edition, but you could technically make your own up if you had to. But I do have the need for a pouch, so I'm going to go ahead and type pouch. And instead of having a healing potion, he has the drow and the regular poison. So there's his pouch, and then if you have an ammunition pouch, you could also grab that too. So that's if it's in your library. So that's enough for inventory. I don't want to give him too much more. And now once we're done with inventory, and we've already satisfied the basic stuff in the background here. So if I go to inventory and then move over to spells, this is where you would basically assign yourself some spells if required. So you get drow magic, and from that you get to pick spells. So you're going to have to go through your class and read, or your race, and read what you get for that. So I'm going to go to my race, and then I'm going to go to the dark elf and click on this little icon here and move this over. That way it doesn't get buried. And I'm going to go back to spells. Now when you go through this, you scroll down and you'll look at an ability called Drow Magic. So there is a trait on your character sheet that will give you the Drow magic option, which is kind of like a way of saying this is spells that you get for being a Drow. So if you click on Drow magic, it says you get the following. You get the cantrip spell, which is a basic thing that you get for dancing lights. So these are things that you can add after the fact. Since you're not really doing a selection for an actual class, these are add-on. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that out too, so I can check that out later. And then once you go to feats, if you had any feats that you were going to pick, you can select them here. So that's not too bad. It took me a little longer because I was using a lot of content, but if you just use like the base content, it's very quick. So we satisfied the race requirement, stats, class, and background. Traditionally, we used to say that a battle-ready character, so it was ability scores, it was your background, race, and class, but now you can do it in pretty much any order you want. But once you're done, you want to go through these and double check these are the choices that you want. And if you want to make any adjustments, this is the time to do it. And then once you're done with that, then you hit save. Once you hit save or click on it, it's going to bring up your character sheet just like when you were creating it with the older drag and drop method. And another tip that I found out is for the portrait on the top left corner, if you take and put that over to your basically if you double click and it brings up the asset window, and then you're going to go into portraits and then select it. It's a lot faster if you go through assets, bring these up ahead of time, and then when you're building your character, you can drag and drop these from the assets window instead of going through the portrait window. Because double clicking on this and then going to the bag and then clicking in here is a little slower. So if you go through the assets, so if you go to assets, and then you're going to go to the portraits folder, and then you're going to go to subfolder. You go through there, it's a little bit quicker, a little snappier. And this is the portrait that I want, so I'm just going to drag and drop that right onto the character sheet. Much quicker than trying to go through the portrait area. So that's something I've discovered in playing around with this. So you want to make that quicker and not have to wait for all those images to load. Load that up ahead of time, and it'll save you a lot of time in the back end. So it's all set here. I mean, all your stats are here. Your armor class, your initiative bonus, your speed. There is your background, your race, their level. And then if you go down these tabs systematically, you'll notice that there's a bunch of different things added. So here's the Poisoner's Kit, which I'm going to add. And that is going to be part of that. So that's good. And then we're going to take and add the stat that goes with it. So that's going to be wisdom, I think, or intelligence, one or the other. And then your proficiencies for tools, we'll see what that's going to be. But more than likely, it's going to be a dex-based thing. So I'll just add that here. And then later on, I'll define what the tool is. But all of your skills, other than those two, are defined. And then if you go to your abilities, you have your fighting style, second wind, and your second class drow thing. So a noble drow, you are not challenged usually when entering a drow city. So this is called a second class drow. So basically, you're kind of second tier to the women, but at least you're you can get in without too many issues. Here's the Drow magic that I was telling you about. You have Fey ancestry, sunlight sensitivity, and you have the ability for trance so that you can rest for 8 hours, but you only have to sleep for 4. And then you're proficient with all armor, all martial weapons, shields, and simple weapons. So you have quite a bit. Now I need to add undercommon, because that was something that was added to the character from its background. So I had to manually add that, which isn't too bad. And then here's all the inventory. And you can see here there's some of the content that we have. So the Dungeoneer's pack didn't explode like it was supposed to, but it's basically carried. There's a bunch of stuff in there. And then you have your poisoner's kit and all your other items. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the if you have a backpack too, that's what this should have done, is expanded out to a backpack. But nonetheless, those are your different options for your weapons. For your ammunition pouch, you can put your you can just say like your case is in the ammunition pouch, or you can say that your hand crossbow bolts are also stored in the ammunition pouch. So you can just type that in there, and that will basically supply it with the location. And then with the Drow poison, you can put that inside your pouch. The canned crossbow bolts for the case can go in your it can go inside of your Dungeoneer's pack. Your ammunition pouch is probably on you. You have your hand crossbow, your longsword, poisoner's kit is going to go in the pouch. And then I think you're pretty good here as far as this stuff goes, and maybe the basic poison will go in the pouch too. So that's that. And if you had any background equipment or anything like that, you can add it or make it if you don't have it in your repertoire of things to grab. So I'm going to go through at some point, and I'll go back and I'll add more stuff to this equipment list, and then I'll go ahead and check to see what's going on with the Dungeoneer pack. Because normally that would expand, but it could be because I pulled it from another source, so that could very well be. So that's basically the majority of it. And then you have your notes here, so if you want to put your alignment and your god. So in this case it would be Lolth, and then we would put it's going to be a male, and he's going to look around the age of like 25. It's going to be like 5'4" in height and maybe 135 pounds soaking wet. And then his alignment is going to be neutral evil. So he's not chaotic evil, but he's evil. And then these are all your background traits, so you can drag and drop those from your background. And then on your actions tab, you're going to put your ammo here. So there's a dagger, 20 bolts. Hand crossbow is single-handed, so you can leave it there. The longsword, you can switch between the primary or the secondary hand if you are going to use it single-handed or one-handed. Since this guy doesn't really use a shield, he'd probably use this thing both one or two-handed, depending on the situation. So that's basically the character wizard in a nutshell. I mean, you can add more custom actions to the back here. I'm not going to go through that because I don't want to spend all day doing that. But mainly, I wanted to show you the character wizard is a quicker way to build the character. And if you don't have a ton of content like I do, I have like way too much stuff on here. I'm actually kind of trying to push this to see what it does and how it operates. But as you can see, I have a ton of books here. I can actually probably get rid of 90% of those and just keep the player's handbook. So just remember, the more content you have, the more Fantasy Grounds has to go through and pull that stuff in. So I had a ton of content, so that kind of slowed down the wizard a little bit. But for the most part, it was fairly simple, fairly straightforward. To retrace our path, again, I'll just kind of go through the very beginning part. So if you go to the character selection box and you click on the character wizard, that's going to bring that up. And that's exactly how you're going to start the character. Give it a few seconds to see. Right now it's populating. The reason it took that long is because I had like 50,000 things. But if you go through race, stats, class, background, that's the main stuff. And then you can pick your inventory, your spells, and if you have any feats towards the end. So that's how you build a character, is you just systematically, like, let's see, click race, and you're going to pick one of the races, and then you're going to go through your stats and check those out and figure out what method you're going to use. So if I wanted to roll, I could actually go to the dice roll, and it'll roll all the stats at once. And then all of these numbers here, I can drag and drop those to the score. So if I wanted the, and this is the 46 drop the lowest method. So if I wanted the 13 in strength, I could drag and drop that up there on the top right. If I wanted the 15 in dex, I can drag and drop that there. And that would change the numbers for us so that we wouldn't have to deal with that. So this is a way that you can add your stats in here if you want. So this is a cool feature that Fantasy Grounds is improving, and as time goes on, it'll get better and better. It's already changed quite a bit in the last few months. So I encourage you to give it a try, and if you're experienced with Fantasy Grounds, this is a quick way to whip out some player characters. So you guys have a good weekend. Happy Father's Day, and I will see you guys in the community. You got a lot of cool things coming up. This month, we're still in the middle of our Pathfinder month. We still got half a month to go, a little less than 2 weeks. So Pathfinder 2, that is. And then next month in July, we are going to have our Founders Day event. And I promise you it's going to be interesting, and we are getting events up. So you want to look at the calendar and start checking those out, see if you want to sign up for any. And if you're a game master or somebody out there that wants to give their shot at trying to GM, this would be a perfect weekend for it. It's at the very end of July from the 30th to August 1st. And it's going to be a lot of different people showing up. I got some guests coming. So you guys might want to check that out if you're around. And this will be up on YouTube, so if you want to watch this later, or maybe I did something wrong and you want to go back and check, whatever it is, leave comments in the chat for the actual description of the video.